So first of all, welcome, Sheever.
Thank you.
Great to have you here. I think everyone is really excited as well. First question for me is, you've seen it already. What do you think of the LAN here, of the setup?
I think the setup is great. First of all, I mean, I've been in LAN cafes many a times, and LANs where people do take their own computers. And I think this is the first one, and I know it's Dota only LAN, that's fine. But it's the first one where I actually see Dota on every screen. So I love to see that. That's it's unique for me.
Yes. That is great.
Keep them coming.
But this is also like a Dutch Dota LAN. Have you seen those in previous years?
I have been to one thing in Rotterdam.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and it was like in one of those weird domes that was repurposed.
It was the Dutch Dota Championships, for those who remember.
Yeah. And I went there with Owen, with JJ as well. And Laura was there. She was the interviewer. She interviewed me as well. And that was... Oh, it stopped working.
Hello?
Hello?
We're back. No?
No? Oh, hello. Yes. And that was but that was a lot of fun. So this would be the second one, I think. Unless I forget one, but I don't think I am.
I mean, it is obviously like a different intent, as in, you know, that tournament was way more of like an actual, supposed to be a broadcast tournament, and this is like, let's be honest, like we're all not that good at the game here, a lot of us, I think. Okay, I'm not that good at it.
He means they're all pros. Yes, all pros.
I mean, like, if you remember, Saturday was there. Where is he now? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, true. That's true. Yeah.
But you've obviously also like going towards that broadcast kind of event.
Yeah.
You just came back from Malaysia. Like how? Like obviously that's completely different to something like this.
It is. The biggest difference instantly noticed was that the average height of people here is a lot higher than in Malaysia. So very nice, very clear that it's a Dutch LAN. Love that. And no, it's a lot of fun. I hope there's going to be many more of these. That would be fun if it can grow, you know, tentatively.
Yeah, that was also the intention. That would be great. Last year we had like 20 people, smaller club. Now we have like 40 people here. So, you know, we're going to continue that. We have 80 people next year here. So that would be great.
Yeah, we're always trying to get bigger. One of the biggest things obviously coming up, TI once again. Is any favorites going into your mind?
Any favorites for TI?
Yeah, I mean, maybe first who you think is gonna win and who you want to win, because those are often different.
Okay, well, I actually will be controversial. I think it is, well, I don't know if it's controversial or not. I think it's about time PSG wins. It's just really sad at the moment. It's just because they made it to the finals so many times, and either they don't make finals and maybe another Chinese team wins, but I think it's about time a Chinese team wins TI because it's really good for the scene. Or South America, not Europe, sorry. We can come third again, that'll be nice. And fourth and fifth and sixth maybe as well, but other than that, just a region that hasn't won in a while or never, because Southeast Asia also has never won a TI. It's not going to happen this year, but maybe, you know, eventually. But PSG then.
So basically what you're saying right here is you don't want Crystallis or Salary to win.
No, actually, those would be the exceptions, because I think that would be really good for Dutch Dota, because the amount of media requests TI winning teams get will make sure that next year you will have 80 people here.
Yeah, it also would be great if maybe a tournament is organized here in the Netherlands. You know, maybe a major, but who knows? Who knows?
Who knows? I think you need ESL or something to suggest. I know that The Hague at some point was an option for one of the tournament organizers for a major, and then they went for Boston instead. That was the Boston major could have been the Hague major.
But now we have this. With these beautiful people who are obviously very good at the game of Dota 2.
I mean, it's basically the same, right? I mean,
and apart from...
Close enough.
And apart from being very good at the game of Dota 2, I'm sure they also have some great questions to ask you.
I think so too. Does the audience have any questions? Where's Paul? You can, walk around.
It's working.
Yay.
Yeah, you just mentioned salary and other Dutch person, I don't know, but how was it for you to be a host when Sing Sing was doing well in Cloud9?
It was very fun. I already knew Sing Sing beforehand because I used to stream a lot with Sing or play stacks with Sing Sing before he joined Cloud9, and it was just really fun to. I met him at TI2. It was the first interview I ever did that I think a lot of people have seen.
Was that with Mouse?
That was with Mouse Sports. Yeah, correct. So that was actually a lot of fun because at that point I'm like, oh my god. Dutch Dota, actually good, because Bamboo was in the scene as well then, being very successful, and it was really cool. And then I think the last one he went to was TI4, and that was where he did quite okay, and I remember getting a lot of, he got top 8, I believe, with Cloud9 at that point. I got a lot of interview requests from Dutch newspapers about Sing Sing, because obviously he couldn't take them, so that was really cool. I thought like, oh my god, Dota 2 in the Netherlands is going so well, and then everything obviously went downhill from there. But it was, but it was really cool. So it's really cool to see new Dutch Dota players actually doing well in worldwide international championships. So that's yeah, it was really cool being a host while Sing Sing was there. But I mostly knew him not as a host, more as a friend, kind of.
Any other question?
Sheever, are you married with Bulldog?
I am not married with Bulldog.
Okay.
I am in a very happy relationship with Owen Davies, otherwise known as Odie Pixel.
Oh.
We have a house together.
Oh, where is him? Where is him? Okay, but what are your plans for Dota?
What are my plans for Dota?
Yeah, your Dota future. What do you think?
So I don't know how long Dota has in terms of lifespan, and I don't think anybody does. It's obviously been a game where in Dota 1 it was around for like a decade before it turned into Dota 2. And who knows if there's going to be a Dota 3, or if it's going to have 5 more years, if it's going to have 10 more years, if Valve is going to keep organizing TI or a DPC system at all, and if they don't, what will happen? Maybe an ESL will take over and do some stuff.
Or it's just a dead game?
It's not yet a dead game. I think it could be a game that lasts for a very, very long time, but it could also be killed by mismanagement. And at the moment, I'm just enjoying my time hosting the game that I love, and I branched out a little bit in Valorant, and it's you know, it's mostly to make sure that I have a contingency plan if Dota doesn't do as well. But at the moment, I'm just riding the wave.
Okay.
I would like to kind of follow up on that one, because I'm kind of curious. Because you're saying, like, I know you've done like a Valorant event recently. I mean, you've obviously also been involved with other esports in other ways. What do you think is like the biggest like difference between the Dota audience and other esports audiences? Because you would probably agree, every game has a very specific kind of audience.
Dota audience compared to other games, and I think you know where this is going, because we're all big nerds. And you can see it if you look at, there's like Twitch clouds out there, where if you people that watch Dota on stream generally don't watch anything else. And the moment that their streamer starts playing something else other than Dota, they'll switch to continue watching Dota. And there is, like all the other big esports games, CSGO, League of Legends, people start watching their favorite person, and then when they play something else, they'll continue watching their favorite person. Not Dota players. Dota players is like, well, no, fuck that. I'm gonna watch Dota too, because they're more a fan of the game than of the people, because they're just bigger nerds. So I think that's not a negative, by the way. I say it lovingly. I'm a big nerd myself as well because of that. But I think that's the biggest difference. I think when I hosted Valorant, now everybody knows Twitch chat can be a little bit, you know, iffy for first-time female talent. So I was prepared. I know what it's like in Dota, so I'm like, okay, here I go. Everybody was nice. Literally, there was not a mean person. I think there was maybe heavy moderation already happened in the past that made sure that any kind of bad apples were already gone at that point. Not a bad word was said. Everybody was nice, supportive. It was really breath of fresh air. And I think that's a pretty big difference with the Dota audience. But that, I don't know if that has anything to do with the audience itself, or maybe that was just Twitch moderation. But it was a very nice welcome in a different game.
Anybody have any questions of their own?
Yes, hello. So this is a question generally relating to casting, which is how did you end up casting for TI and hosting it eventually, you know, and all that stuff? How did you progress from where you were to where you are now?
It wasn't really a conscious decision for me to do the job that I'm doing now. I was working in sales, wasn't really too happy there, and I was, well, at first I was addicted to World of Warcraft, and then I cold turkey stopped, played Skyrim for 2 weeks, and got my Dota 2 invite and started playing Dota 2 all the time, because obviously, I don't know, people generally have played World of Warcraft. You know, you have to fill that void with another game or with something else. For me, that was Dota 2 in the end. And I just played a whole lot, and then I wanted to leave my sales job. And at that point, I was like, okay, gotta get experience somewhere. I don't have any experience in anything other than sales. And I figured I'll get some experience organizing tournaments. And joined Dota at that point was organizing an amateur tournament. And I was gonna be an admin there. And it was just an admin, just all online, obviously. And I did that, wanted to get more PR for the little tiny tournament. It was called the Mishmash Tournament, remember it well. And we were going to stream it, because that's what you did to get more PR. And we had 17 viewers at some point. I was very excited. And me and another admin were basically sitting there. We were not planning on commentating it, but it was very awkward, because you're basically sitting there watching a game. You know your microphone is hot. And so the only thing we could do at some point was just start talking about the game. So that's how I started casting, started to know that I loved casting, got asked like, hey, we're doing also another amateur tournament. Would you want to cast that as well? And I'm like, sure, why not? Did that as well, and then kept saying yes to little jobs. At some point was suggested by someone that I should apply to Gosu Gamers to be their commentator, voluntary, not a non-paid job, and got an interview with Gods, and he accepted me. And then I got to go to TI2, like literally a month or two later, because they needed an interviewer, and they only had a camera guy, but not an interviewer. So I was put in front of the camera, Sing interview ensued, and basically that's what I decided. Like, oh, I should try to do more with this, because that's also when my parents realized, wait a second, she's going to Seattle because of some random thing she's doing online. Because at that point, I was unfortunately let go from my job due to economical reasons. And they were going to pay me for like 3 months without me having to work, which was really nice. And it allowed me to just only cast, only like do star ladder casts and stuff. And that's how I started casting. And I casted a lot of online things until like TI4 EU Hub. Then I was invited by James Harding to join him in Stockholm, together with a lot of other talent. And that's when I realized that I was good at hosting, because I wasn't really hosting, but it's something that I did naturally to keep people informed about what was happening. And I was then invited to TI4, only group stages, as a panelist. That was something James didn't know. As in, he knew I was invited, but he's like, hey, Sheever, would you like to open the show? I'm like, sure, why not? So that's when my first hosting job was actually TI4 group stages. And in between group stages and main event, there was a week break or something at TI4. And I was asked if I wanted to do main event panelist as well. So that was my first TI to actually work, because I was at TI3, but I was there as press. And I did some interviews at TI2, but it was minuscule, also not paid, of course. And yeah, TI4 was my first one that I worked, and I basically said yes to every opportunity. And I think people that are freelancers will be very familiar with the feeling that you have to do everything, because otherwise, if you don't do it, someone else will. And what if they're better? So I basically worked a lot and made sure that I was everywhere where I could be. And I still love the job, so I still kind of do that. And that's how I got to be where I am today. So just saying yes to a bunch of stuff, basically.
I'll try to take your advice. All right.
Yeah,
no one asks for money, okay? I'm not going to say yes to that. I'm not going to say yes to that.
No, I think the esports scene has definitely changed. I think a lot of the things that I did back then will be paid now, should be paid now. It has grown a lot. I mean, that was what 6-7 years ago already. So it's you should ask for money for your time if people ask for you to do stuff. So don't worry about that. But it definitely was me saying yes to random things that if I was asked on hindsight, it's like, hey, you've no hosting experience. Would you host TA4? At this point, I'm like, why did I say yes? That sounds terrifying, and it was terrifying. But I said yes anyway, and it worked out. And I also remember the times where I messed up at TA4, hosting, but nobody else remembers. So that's very nice.
We'll watch the VODs.
Maybe you could tell us about that.
About my mistakes?
Yes.
All right, my biggest one. So at TA4 for main stage, I was invited only as a panelist, apart from one series, because James, he needed to do something with ESPN the day after, and he needed to be well rested, so he needed to leave before the last series. So they were like, Sheever, you're gonna host main stage last series. And thank God for Seb, he was my panelist. He definitely saved my butt more than once. He's still a very good panelist, obviously, but at that point he was full-time talent, and he definitely helped a bunch. But at some point I had to send it to the game, and I like, okay, here we go, game 1. I can't even remember the teams. And then I stopped talking, even though I was supposed to continue on, because we were also doing the draft, but I completely forgot. I don't know how I would forget something like that, but I just stopped talking. It was really awkward. It was awkward for me most of all. So I think not a lot of people notice. And I am very good, and the thing that makes me good at my job as well, I'm very good at laughing things off. So if things are awkward, I'll just laugh and smile, and everybody is like, human, whatever. And it works. It really, really works. Because the moment I'm like, oh, shit, I messed up. And the moment I'm starting to worry about that, and you can see that, or hear that, then it's bad. Then it will end up in live stream fails, but not if you're just laughing it off.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions?
So you have experience in the Valorant scene as well. So I want to ask, what do you think is it better the franchising stuff, of course with Valorant, and DPC, how it is in Dota? What do you think is better, or just in general different from those two scenes?
Well, that's a very good question, because it's first of all, Valorant obviously is just changing next year. They're gonna do partnerships, I believe we have to call it, rather than franchise, basically franchise. In Dota, it has never, but apart from I guess this year to last year, like this competitive season and the previous season were the same format for the first time. But other than that, it seems like Valve has been constantly searching for the best way to do DPC, whether it's 6 weeks, or maybe we have to do 20 majors or 20 minors, 2 majors, 3 majors, minors into majors. It's been very variant, like it's been a bit all over the place, let's put it that way. And I don't know if there is a best way, because it is very different and it is not just Valorant, League of Legends, obviously with franchise as well, and Overwatch has done franchising. And there is definitely positives attached to it, more for the longevity of the scene, I would imagine, because you definitely get people to be, and companies, to be more invested in the longevity of the game and the scene itself. And there's positives in that. There's also some negatives, because it does leave less space for potentially third-party events, like the ESL ones. We only just had one, again, obviously after COVID, the one in Malaysia, but the ones that we had, ESL one Frankfurt, Birmingham, those were great. And I don't think they would have a place, or events like that would have a place, if there was a franchising system inside Dota 2. And for Dota, I mean, the DPC this year, don't get me wrong, I think talent overall was pretty happy with the way it was arranged with the 6 weeks, 3 times, because that's a lot of work days, and we get paid per day. So it's, for our bank accounts, it's really nice. But for, obviously I'm lucky, I travel together with Owen, go to the same city, but all my colleagues that have to go away for 6 weeks, away from their homes, from their girlfriends or wives, sometimes even children, it's just a lot. So personally, that was too long for me, and I'm happy that it's going to change a little bit coming season. If that's the best way to do it, probably not, because I think that the main difference, and I don't have a solution, so it's easy for me to complain. The main issue with the coming season for me is that there will be time to organize third-party events, which is great, but they'll mostly be organized during Division 2 of other regions, of every region basically. And during those Division 2s, that means nobody is going to watch, well, people are still going to watch Team Bald, but people are not going to watch, Hippomaniacs or someone like that, like just play, because there's no interest for that. So the tier 2 scene will not grow as much as it did before, or maybe it will and I'm completely wrong, which is very likely as well. But I think that will be a tricky part. It also depends on how much effort tournament organizers put in those Division 2 games, because for franchising, organizers put effort into the growth and to the academy form, if you will, to grow from basically being just a normal player in Divine rank into playing for millions at TI or at their Worlds or World Championship. There's a very clear path for franchise teams to be able to be competing in those tournaments. And for Dota and the DPC, the path is clearer than what it was. That's absolutely for sure. But it's not very stable at all for Division 2 teams. Most people, you can't have that as a job. You have to still work on the side, or you have to just be lucky that you're very good at your studies, so you don't have to spend a lot of time at that. That's basically the only way where you can grow in Dota 2 at the moment. And for any kind of partnership, you don't have to worry about that, because you're probably having an organization that's going to pay you a wage. So you can easily say to your parents, hey, I'm gonna do this for a year, see how it goes, but don't worry, I'm making money while I'm doing this. And that's doable. You can't do that in Dota 2. Sorry, very long answer.
Great. Any other questions?
I think you had some questions for me too.
That's true, but let's see the audience first.
What is your favorite event and why?
My favorite event? Ooh, okay, so there's one that's a bit controversial, because I think some people might know nobody ever got paid for GESCs. It's like events that happened in the past. But I did one in Indonesia. Got flown business class. Don't get that every day, so that was nice. It already said good vibes. Also controversial, my producer was Paul Redeye. So he's normally a host, so he knew exactly what I needed and what I didn't need. So he was really good to have as a producer. I had JJ as a talent manager because nobody else showed up, and he was really good at his job. I had a great time. Everybody else maybe not as much, but I had a good time, and the crowd was crazy. They were very, very responsive, and that is the only event so far where I had a massive crowd cheering my name, it's really, really strange. And it was, looking back on it, it's less strange, but when it was happening, it's like, okay, this is awkward. But on hindsight, that was really cool. And I think that in terms of experience, that was one of my best events. Unfortunately, not got paid, but hey, I got the experience, so that's nice. And I think in terms of TIs, TI6 was my best one. That's always a question that I get as a follow-up. So TI6 was my best one to work. And I think the reason for that was the day before anything happened, Valve had hired a, what is it called? Like an improvisational coach, basically. Improv coach. And all the talent got together in one room. And with this improv coach, he was basically coaching us to be nice. It sounds so stupid. But Dota 2 in the talent scene is very competitive, because obviously you're basically working with people that want to take your job as well, right? You're competing with everybody that you see. And that coach basically was really good at making us act like a unit and like a team. And I think that was very much carried through to the panels that we had during TI6. So that was my favorite TI for that one, and in terms of working as well. So those two events, I'd say.
You already you kind of brought up the concept of controversy just now. I'm gonna ask a bit more, because there's always controversy in the Dota scene about everything. I'm just kind of curious about the subject of, recently there was not that recently anymore, but there was the tournament in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, the Gamers 8 tournament. There's a lot of controversy about that, because, I'm pretty sure people got paid because there's lots of money there, but there's also the concept of like sports watching and stuff. Do you have any opinions about it? Do you think those kind of events, are they good for the scene or not? Or how do you view such a thing?
I think those things are inevitable. It happens, as you say, sports washing. It happens in every branch. And I can very much, go sit on my high horse and say, no, you shouldn't do that, you shouldn't work that. But at the same time, first of all, I didn't get invited, so I didn't have to make any decision there whatsoever. But I can't look in other people's wallets to see if they can turn it down, if they have the luxury to do so. And I just mentioned, if you turn it down, I mean, that competitiveness, you feel like you have to say yes to everything, so you would say yes to that as well. Dota lifespan, who knows how long it's going to be, so, get the bag while you can, is also a philosophy there. I think it's inevitable, and if I was going to sit on a moral high ground anywhere, I kind of don't know where to put the line, because I wouldn't be able to watch, Disney. I wouldn't be able to use Uber because everything is owned by the same people. Eventually, everything will be owned by either China, the Saudis, or some other rich people. That's unfortunately it's very depressing, but that's the society we live in.
I mean, the event happened in the first place probably because of ESL now being owned by a Saudi investment group and everything. And they're obviously a big player still in the esports scene.
At the moment, the only ones that organize third-party events. So do I want to ruin my relationship with ESL? Probably not, if I want to continue working.
Yeah, definitely not. And because you have alluded to this thing as well a bunch of times, like you don't know how long Dota 2 is going to live, get the bag while you can, expanding into other games is obviously very important, definitely understandable. How can we get the most longevity out of Dota while we still can? Because I am looking personally, like having been a StarCraft 2 fan my entire life, that game has been on life support for a very long time now, but they're still trudging along because there's a few people that are still very passionate about the game. Do you think that's kind of a model Dota eventually is going to become, or how do you see it for?
Well, StarCraft is very unique, first of all, because the barrier to start playing that is very high. There's a lot of different MOBAs out there, but there's not that many different action RTSs or RTSs because it's just too hard for a lot of people.
Do you think it's easier to get into Dota than it is to get into StarCraft?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I think everybody would agree.
I would disagree, but
okay. No, I think it is easier to get into Dota. It's gonna sound very corny perhaps, but I think events like this are very important for longevity of the game, and not just in the Netherlands, but all over the world. And I know that it's very popular to go into LAN cafes in for example, Southeast Asia to just play anything with your friends. And the fact that it can be Dota is really cool. And I think that is needed to keep the scene alive. I think it's very promising to have a team like Team Spirit win TI. That was incredibly important because they're basically a bunch of young guys winning TI, and they hadn't been doing that well a year before that. So that made it seem like anything is possible. Hereby, anything's possible. I'm expecting someone to win TI next year. No, it's possible, and we now know that because there's all these young guys coming up, doing well, and beating Puppy, Kuroki, obviously PPD is not there, but that happening is very good. And the moment that stops happening, so I think personally, I was a little worried that, okay, Nigma not making it to TI last year, that could have been seen as a turning point, because that could have been okay, from this point onwards, all the old names are gonna fade away because eventually they're gonna retire, and there's nobody to take their place because everybody is a fan of only the big names. And now that's changed with Team Spirit winning, and we see more people coming into the scene and being active with that. So I think supporting new people on every level, the amateur level, that's the key to keeping a game alive.
It needs to come from the bottom up. It's not something that you say Valve has to do this and this. No, it needs to.
It would be nice. I think Valve is one of those entities that is you can't really expect anything. If anything comes, it's nice, but you can't really expect anything. Valve, at the end of the day, is a company whose goal it is to make money, and it's very clear. And not everything directly makes money if you get new people in it. It also applies to, for example, talent life. Eventually, I hope that I am, moving on, but then there's other people that will also are very good at what they're doing, and they'll be able to take over as well. It's also important to have new players, new talent, everybody coming into the scene, because otherwise you're gonna get stuck. And I think that's for StarCraft something that missed, because, for example, new StarCraft 2 talent. At some point, everybody was only fans of the big ones, and nobody else was let in.
Yeah, I mean, talking about Dutch people, Rotterdam is still casting that game every day, so, it's not really changing that much.
Yep.
Any other questions from the audience?
It's a big walk.
Hi. I have a couple of related questions. I'm assuming Valve is one of your main employers. What's it like working with Valve?
Valve is actually not one of my main employers, because the only tournament they organize is TI.
Right.
So I guess in terms of paycheck, it used to be that they are one of the bigger chunks, but because the DPC system is as it is right now, and this year I did 3 tours in Stockholm, ESL is my biggest employer right now. Okay. Valve as an employer, I mean, they're fine. They are. I at the moment prefer ESL, because ESL has a higher, I would say, a higher standard of talent care. So that's more like maybe a little bit, arrogant point of view, but I prefer that. And as an employer, I mean, what can I say? They pay on time, which is a big plus in esports. They're very transparent regarding that as well. They do everything by the book in terms of contracts and stuff. So you know exactly what you're dealing with, which is, for esports, is very nice.
All right. And getting into events, is there any talks between events about what you're going to do in the future, or is that a complete gamble and surprise when you get into an event?
It's a bit of both. I think, especially at the start of my career, it was really like, okay, I just did this event, that's great. Can I pay the rent in a couple of months if I don't get anything, any other events? So there was a lot of uncertainty, and for a lot of talent, there is still a lot of uncertainty. Like, especially now that there's not that many events. There were some years where there were like 30 events a year, and obviously more work for everyone. And now, if you're not working a DPC league, you're probably pretty sad, because there's nothing else to do. For me, I'm lucky enough that I've been doing this long enough that I'm past the uncertainty. It also helps that I share finances with Owen, and I know that Owen's best what he does, slightly biased, but that helps me as well. It's like, okay, if I don't get invited, maybe Owen does, and then there's still income coming in. And I think for me the biggest difference was that in between events I stream a lot, and I have subscribers, and they actually are the reason why I was able to bridge part of the start of my career to be able to not have that uncertainty constantly, like, oh, am I going to be able to pay rent? Am I going to be able to eat properly? Stuff like that. But the uncertainty and what am I going to do next month, that is, well, the uncertainty of what am I going to do next month is still very much there. I have no idea what I'm doing next year. After a certain event that I might or might not be involved in, who knows, in October. And after that, I don't know what I'm going to do, because I have no offers. I don't know nobody knows which tournament is doing which region. Like, what if ESL gets, what if they get South America, and they're like, okay, we're going for a lower budget talent team because South America gets more money, less money in the bank, and then they can't afford me. So what am I going to do then? And maybe Beyond the Summit gets Western Europe, and they're like, no, we're going with our same standard talent team, and then all of a sudden I'm left out to dry and I've got nothing to do. But then I will still stream, and then I'm hoping that Owen still gets a job somewhere. But that uncertainty, unfortunately, I mean, that would be with franchising, that would be solved, right? That uncertainty would be gone because you know exactly what you're doing. But unfortunately, not the way it's organized right now.
I'm guessing this goes for all freelance jobs, right? Spread your income sources and do multiple things at the same time. How do you feel watching a new talent reveal and seeing that maybe Red Eye or Day9 or Machine got the main gig? How do you feel about that?
You mean for Dota in particular in the past?
Yeah, for Dota.
Well, first of all, let's see. My first TI that I hosted was TI9. TI7, I was very expecting not to get invited because I had cancer, so I couldn't anyway. TI8, now the shitty thing about TI8 is that I actually did get invited to host, but then they changed their minds. So that felt really, really bad. Like, I've not felt that bad in a very long time. I did I don't know if anybody remembers, I did the Sheever scoops at that point at the TI. It was the one in Vancouver, and then every once in a while I stood on a little thing and came in with little knowledge tidbits about the players. That was, I don't even think it was Paul hosting finals. I think it was, I forgot, Chobra. It was Chobra hosting. There's that, and I think I was hurt. Obviously, that is something that will happen. I have since let go of a little bit of the pride. I think also events in the past, not just TI, but like overall, I think I respected the fact that Paul, I mean, he's really good at his job. But I was more upset when people were hosting that I thought I was better than. So, you know, it's also something that you can't really be upset about because people hire who they want. So, but it's definitely, I mean, I definitely struggled a lot in the past with if I didn't get invited to an event, I would be sad. Didn't work Manila Major, for example, and I did think I was gonna get invited, and I only found out 2 weeks before that time. Definitely a bad one in my memory book. But at the moment, I'm at a point in my life and career, fortunate enough that if someone else gets invited, for example, Arlington Major, that was actually, I was really happy with that because I needed a break. And I also know that it's very healthy to have new hosts come in because it can't only be me because then people are going to get really tired of me.
It's
And
a bit stale, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay, last question. There's some new esports personality coming into Dota. Do you know about Grubby, Manuel?
Do I know Grubby?
Well,
I mean, are you a small-time Warcraft 3 player?
What I'm asking is, have you worked with him? Have you spoken to him?
Never worked with him, because I've never worked in Warcraft 3 or Heroes of the Storm, which I think a game was that he did as well. Never talked to him either, because basically he's from a different esports generation, I want to say.
Yeah, he's a bit older maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked with Victor Goossens, he's from the same era. That sounds really mean, considering we're the same age, I believe. But like, he was very active in esports earlier on as well, and I wasn't at that time. The same thing goes for Grubby. I'm very excited. More Dutch people doing well in esports, and he's been getting a lot of love on his streams, on Reddit. Everybody's like, oh my god, this guy, he's so positive, and he's saying so many good things. He could be a motivational speaker. He should go to TI. He should do all these things. And it's been a while since we had a person, any person, coming into the scene with that much positivity attached to it.
Yeah, Dota
so that's
could
really
use
good.
some more positivity. I'm very excited for him. I hope to see him on TI.
Yeah, it would be nice. I personally, I have no idea who's going to TI, so who knows?
All right, thank you.
Great. I also had a question. I wanted to jump in back there because you have hosted TIs, like big ones, $40 million on the line, millions of people watching you, and you're the host. What's that like?
I try to not think about the people watching me. The only thing, in TI10 it was fairly easy to not think about the people watching me because obviously there was no crowd. And we were in a tent because it was a green screen panel, so we were in a tent. And so the only thing I'm looking at are cameras, and those don't change depending on the viewer numbers, so that helps. Other than that, I mean, I don't know. I just focus on the work, and the only time I get nervous is probably on day one of an event, when I haven't hosted for a while, because maybe it's been a couple of weeks, and then the first day I'm going to be really nervous about something, or maybe the first panel of the day, and during the grand finals, maybe there's going to be an opening show that is 40 minutes long, and that's pretty long for filling a show without it sounding like you're filling a show, and it just be a good show to listen to that people are going to be excited and interested about. So that's the only times where I would be a little nervous. But I don't think that has much to do with $40 million being on the line. I think it also helps that at some point a lot of money is just a lot of money. And it is really, I mean, I don't really feel sorry for the teams that are losing because they're probably still millionaires anyway. So that helps a lot. And yeah, it's just, it's nice. I think the last couple of times where I hosted a finals, I found my job to be more making my panelists not feel those nerves. making them feel comfortable and that they know what the plan is, so that they're not nervous about needing to potentially fill for 30 minutes. Like, oh my God, what are we
Maybe
gonna
they're
talk
less
about?
experienced as well.
Yeah, exactly. So that's, I feel like, oh my God, I'm growing old. I feel like I'm starting to be the old person on the panel. So that.
Any other questions?
There we go. So you did also already mention something about how Dota tends to be slightly more negative. I know Cheese and I have gotten roasted on YouTube before after we did some random ass tournament. So, well, mostly Cheese because they only took the team fights. But anyway,
I still don't understand how I sound like a Scottish peer in fact. You know, I'll take it.
But
I think that's a compliment.
My question was more related to dealing with the negativity that Dota and Reddit can bring. You know, how much does it get to you, and how do you deal with it?
I would say, so the first time I casted was in 2012, a very long time ago. I will say that at the moment, negativity doesn't really come to me anymore. Sometimes I have a weak moment. I remember actually there was a game last month where someone flamed me. And no, he didn't flame me. It was a pretty mean comment because he said, "I hope you get cancer again and die." So that one got to me. And I've been told that actually quite frequently, unfortunately. But that one was in a wrong time, and sometimes someone says something and hits in a wrong time, and then it hurts. But I'm able to be very open about it, and Owen says, "Oh, it's, it's one person. Who cares?" And I won, so that made it better as well.
He's a 2K shitter, doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly. It was nice. He said, "How are we losing to you? That's not what it should be like," or something like that. I don't know. He was really upset, though that makes you really upset sometimes. I think at the start of my career, I definitely struggled with it, but when I say struggle with it, it never really made me want to quit. If anything, I took great joy in making sure that people were forced to listen to me. Like, you don't like me? Well, sucks to be you. I'm gonna say yes to this job, and there's nobody else that's doing it, so... I think, a while back there was an interview with, I think it was a Reddit interview with Slacks, T-Gov, Ted, and Cap. And Cap had the same thing. It's like it fueled him to do better. Like all the flames and stuff, it fueled him to just want to be better and basically be in the faces of the people that you like. And also, there were a lot of people that were close to me that gave me valuable feedback. So sometimes if there was a thread that wasn't quite nice, which there were quite a few of at that time, I could have my sister read through it, and then she would tell me what the actual constructive criticism was, and just not mention the rest. Which sometimes, obviously I'm human, you're still gonna look it up, it's bad. But overall, that's how I dealt with it. Definitely had some unhappy moments, but in the end, I think, it sounds very cliche, but it also propelled me to do better. And I also do realize that it probably wasn't a very healthy way for people to get better in the scene. And I hope that that's, smoothed out a little bit for new generations, old again. But overall, I think it really... It helped me in the end. It sounds bad, but maybe I was one of the people that it actually, I know it wouldn't help anybody, but it definitely helped me in a way. Wouldn't want to go through it again, but it made me the person I am right now, and that's not that bad of a thing.
I'm kind of curious because to follow up on that question, a specific kind of criticism that has been thrown at a lot of talent in the Dota world specifically is related to elitism. Like, we have seen multiple times people come into TI and they do something related to talent work and they're like, oh, this person, talk about Frankie most recently, for example, this person is really good at the job, but they're from another game originally, and now we all hate this person because they messed something up around Dandy or something.
Yeah.
How do you feel about stuff like that?
Well, I think the thing is, it's so... First of all, the Reddit community, mostly Southeast Asian, who are very quick to jump the gun. If you look at any kind of flame, like if a Southeast Asian team loses a series, those players, their moms get death threats or something crazy. So they're like, it's actually mad that they have to deal with such a high level of toxicity like that. That's crazy. And Reddit is a very bandwagony forum. And it is sometimes cool to be a wave to love people, grubby, or to hate people. And during TI, that was definitely the hosts were a big target of that. Not just Frankie, but Sumi and Avo as well. And it's just sad that happens. And first of all, Frankie is one of the hardest working hosts that I know. And I also personally believe that Frankie at times during TI was basically thrown to the wolves. It's like, okay, you're going to be on a panel. It's going to last for 15 minutes. And as a host, you're like, okay, you got 15 minutes. This is what I'll talk about. This is what I'll talk about. This is what I'll talk about. And then 15 minutes pass. And it's like, okay, then we're going to wait another 10 minutes. And you're like, well, shit. Because maybe some points you mentioned more brief than what you would otherwise. And you can't really go back to what you talked about. So you're basically left on a little bit of an island. And you're going to find ways to fill. And then it will sound like fill. But that's what Frankie actually did quite well for a person that is not normally into Dota. So I actually think Frankie did a really good job considering the circumstances there. And I think that unfortunately Reddit knows that they've got a lot of power because there's a lot of tournament organizers that Reddit is their only source of feedback. And Valve, I believe, is one of them. And that power has gradually grown, or at least, the knowledge that they have that power has gradually grown. And so you might have noticed that over the last 2 years, just overall, all the threads are more black and white, more vicious. Either you like someone or you don't. There's no middle way. And also, unfortunately, the only reason why people post stuff is the same as restaurant reviews. You only say stuff when you don't like it. Everybody that likes it will watch Twitch, think, oh, that was a good show, turn Twitch off, walk away. If you don't like it, or you have even the slightest dislike for someone, you'll look for like-minded people and you'll complain about them and you'll post about them and other people will post as well, and it's basically an echo chamber at that point.
Yeah. And it obviously gets a lot easier when there's no longer that screen in between and you're talking to actual people, and people tend to kind of mellow out.
Exactly, yeah. The internet is just a little bit more toxic place because everybody is anonymous, especially on Reddit. You can say whatever you want, unfortunately.
So is there anybody else who wants to say whatever they want?
Yeah, over here.
Yep.
All right, a couple questions ago, you said about how it feels like to cast or like to host with all these like $40 million prizes. Well, recently the numbers came out for the current battle pass and the prize pool, and it's not doing so well. So how do you feel about that?
Well, I personally, a couple years ago, was advocating for let's cap the prize pool at 25 million. It's a very nice amount. And then put the rest of the money in the DPC year to create a more sustainable tier 2 scene and tier 1 scene, and make everything better, everybody more rich, apart from or next to only the division.